here with at CPAC Mexico with the president of Mis amigos migrantes, pues aquí estoy.
Total catastrophe, and it is a crisis.
Of a child, right there. All these NGOs, you're fake. It is this, the crisis of children.
Thank you so much for joining in. I'm Oscar Blue for Real America's Boys News. We are live. It is today, February 16th of the year 2025. It is 9:16 in the evening, West Coast time. We are live from Tijuana, Mexico. Today's topic, it is illegal firearms. Are they coming from Ukraine or not? This is something that it went completely viral, and it was talked about by one of the most famous journalists in the world, and one of the most famous personalities in the world, that is Tucker Carlson. And that inevitably, this has been a hot topic. This has been a topic that everybody, it is continuously now talking about, that is, openly talking about, that is, if it is a reality, that specifically illegal and illicit artillery, it is coming from the American taxpayer. And let me specify why, because the American taxpayer is the one that has been funding the war in Ukraine, trillions of dollars coming out of the Biden administration, and ultimately that it is being now specifically said that that illicit and illegal artillery by the government of Ukraine, it is being sold to the cartel in Mexico. Is that a reality or not? We don't know yet, but it has been going viral, specifically through the situation that is being said, that Tucker Carlson made the statements. And these are really incredible statements, because he's saying it is factual. Now, which is the amplification of information that he says that is factual? I don't know if when has been the Russian government has been an ally of the United States of America. I don't believe that it has never been an ally. Also, although they say in World War specifically, one specifically, they said that it was an ally. But right now, I don't know if it is an ally or not. And if Tucker Carlson is trusting, Russia to be information of if the artillery, it is coming out of Ukraine to the cartels. I don't know what's going on with Tucker Carlson, if he's infatuated with Putin, the way that he's it's an interesting man, knowing a lot about a history, and he's an intelligent man, but ultimately he's he changed the constitution of Russia to be president until 2036, making him some kind of a as you can say, a dictator. A lot of people think about it that way, a lot of people don't. So this is the video that specifically Tucker Carlson talks about, that specifically he's saying this, the weapons coming all the way from Ukraine are all directed to the cartel.
Alps, which is probably the most expensive town in the world. I was not there to ski, for the record. But the whole town is Ukrainian. All the visitors are Ukrainian, and they're rolling into Air Maze and dropping $1 million in an afternoon. Okay. So it's all through Europe. You see this. The richest people are the Ukrainians. That money is ours. It belongs to me and you and every other American taxpayer. That's where it's going. Second fact, not guess, fact is Ukrainian military is selling a huge percentage, up to half of the arms that we send them. Half. And I'm not guessing about this. I know that for a fact, okay? Not speculation. And they're selling it. And a lot of it's winding up with the drug cartels on our border. So this is a crime, what's happening Our intel agencies are fully aware of this. You tell me they're not profiting from this. Of course, you think CIA is not profiting from this? Yes, they are. I can't prove that, but I believe that. What they don't know this, I know this, but they don't know this. They know this. And no one is saying it. Like, no American seems aware of this. We're sending these arms to Ukraine, billions of billions, hundreds of billions of dollars, and it's being stolen and sold to our actual enemies. Like,
so this is the video, right? This is the video that specifically it is talking about. And if you go to the source and if you start investigating, and me living in Mexico and knowing the whole, situation, how it is specifically being, how the trafficking of guns into Mexico, how it has been for years. It has been for years. And if you go to the video, look what he says specifically. It is a fact. It is a fact. He says it a couple of times. Let me just return the video and let me just understand what he says.
Selling a huge percentage, up to half of the arms that we send them. Half. And I'm not guessing about this. I know that for a fact, okay? Not speculation. And they're selling it. And a lot of us winding up with the drug cartels on our border. So this is this.
He knows that for a fact, he says. So I respect Tucker Carlson, of course, absolutely. Who doesn't? He's one of the most incredible journalists and possibly in American history. And, let me just go and read specifically how this illicit and trafficking of artillery, how it is, and who's the number one distributor to Mexican cartels. And, let's see what he says. And if you go directly to read the information and to find out if it is a reality, what he's saying, you say that, and if you go to every outlet and source, it says that there's no solid information confirming that illicit weapons trafficking to the Mexican cartels originated from Ukraine. The claim that Ukrainian military personnel are selling U.S. supplied weapons to criminal groups in Mexico has been primarily said by American journalist Tucker Carlson. Also, they add to this, they said that the Ukrainian government has strongly denied these accusations, asserting that all military equipment provided by its allies, it is closely monitored through independent mechanisms. Additionally, multiple U.S. inspections have been found. No indicators that weapons sent to Ukraine have been diverted to Mexico. Now, you can say that there's possibly a mafia, a small group of a mafia that is distributing illicit and illegal guns into Mexico. That has happened. Russia has a close allegiance to Venezuela. If his source of information it is Russia, I'm debating on why he is if his source it is Russia. I'm debating why his source is Russia and why he's trusting Russia when Russia has close allegiance to the dictator Nicolás Maduro in Venezuela, and he has, they have accused that the government of Venezuela is really involved with the cartel of Les Soles, that is a huge distributor of cocaine and also illicit and illegal, trafficking of guns into the, Latin America. So that is one of the incredible things about it. Now, if you go into actually know who is the number one distributor of illicit and illegal guns to the cartels, it is coming from the United States of America. The Mexican cartels receiving the most illicit firearms from the United States are the Sinaloa cartel and also the Cartel Jalisco New Generation, that is CJ and G. These two groups are the most powerful and well-armed criminal organizations in Mexico with large quantities of U.S. source and weapons. Now, if you go to the source and types of weapons, it will say that between 70 and 90% of firearms recovered in Mexico originated from the U.S., according to Mexico's Foreign Affairs Ministry. The ATF and GAO estimate that the number is between 68%. There has been a 105% increase on rifles recovered from the cartels in recent years, indicating the shift towards heavier firearms. Which are the heavier firearms? This heavier firearms is started distributing more under the Obama administration with Fast and the Furious, a complete disastrous policy and strategy to codify artillery into the cartels to detect where the guns were going. Says that 50 caliber rifles, particularly popular among CJNG and Sinaloa cartel, are frequently used in attacks against law enforcement, including take down helicopters. The Mexican military has seized fully automatic machine guns, grenade launchers, rocket launchers from the cartels since 2018. If you go down to the information, it says that CJNG had 5 rocket launchers, while the Sinaloa cartel had 4. Amazing. Suggesting that both groups have access to military grenade power and military grade firepower. Some of these weapons may have originated from the past U.S. conflicts in Central America, disappeared from military stockpiles, or been obtained through illegal markets. The main states involved in firearms and trafficking are Texas and Arizona, where loose gun laws allow cartels to exploit the straw purchases. This is a delicate topic. When you're saying that the guns are coming directly from Ukraine, trafficked from the corruption in the Ukrainian government into the Mexican cartels, it is going to create a lot of conflict. And it is now really conflictional because now you have that the actual administration of the United States of America, which is, it has direction now to lead a country and to protect a country. Donald Trump has come off and said the cartels in Mexico need to be designated as terrorists. Why the Mexican president, Claudia Sheinbaum Pardo, has not decided to do that, it has a lot of political issues, constitutional issues with the country. And ultimately, if you designate the cartels as terrorists, you are going to habilitate the American army to go in there and take them out, which for the Mexican people, it will be one of the greatest things that can ever happen, because that is an actual reality. We need help. It is nothing that it is, not knowingly open. We need help to immediately eradicate these criminal organizations in our country, and for Mexico to be a first-class world country, because if Mexico will eliminate the organized crime and the cartel, ultimately this country can jump into be a first-class world country. And why it is not being designated as such? Well, it is obvious there's a lot of corruption. This country has been extremely corruptive since the start. Organized crime and cartels fund political campaigns of a lot of political figures. And ultimately the business that it creates in the industry, it is billions and billions of dollars of trafficking of fentanyl, trafficking of cocaine. The number one supplier and the number one buyer of fentanyl, it is in the United States. Sadly, the number one distributor and the number one with addiction to fentanyl and buyer of cocaine is in the United States. And ultimately, right now, we're seeing that the number one distributor of heavy artillery guns into the cartels comes, sadly, from the United States into Mexico. This is why we have to understand that the talk between Donald Trump and the Mexican president, Claudia Sheinbaum Pardo, was ultimately in agreement. It was not caved in. It was in agreement. Why I say this? Because Claudia Sheinbaum Pardo said, Donald Trump posted on his social media, he said, I just had a really respectful and peaceful conversation with the Mexican president. Mexican president said also, I just had a really respectful and peaceful conversation with the American president, Donald Trump. And we came to an agreement. Of course, the one that led to that agreement was Donald Trump, because if he would not put the threat of a tariff into Mexico, this could never be resolved. Somebody needed to push the buttons of Mexico to hit them in the pockets to these dirty politicians for them to catch the attention and to understand that this is an aggravated problem. The aggravated problem is the enormous trafficking of fentanyl into American territory, and also the illicit and illegal migration that has been happening for millions of people through non-ports of entry that open border gaps. We understand that. But this came to an agreement that Donald Trump suggested to the Mexican government and told them, you need to deploy the National Guard into vehicle ports of entry and to stop and decrease the level of trafficking of fentanyl into American land. The Mexican president said, okay, I will do it. I will deploy more than 10,000 National Guardsmen into every port of entry, vehicle port of entry, that is into the United States of America. They deployed thousands of National Guardsmen into Tijuana, the port of entry, into guard the San Isidro port of entry, Mexicali, Tecate, and ultimately Sonora, Ciudad Juarez, and so on and so on and so on, to protect and also to decrease the level of trafficking into the United States of America. That was the agreement. Also, in that agreement, it was said that the trafficking of guns coming from the United States of America into Mexico needed to decrease. So actually, in that statement from the Mexican president, you can say that it was an agreement that the actual administration of the United States understands that there's an aggravated problem of illicit trafficking of guns from the United States into Mexico. Also, you have a lot of infiltration from the letter organizations in the several diverse states and conflictional states in Mexico, that they are having a high level of problems with artillery and guns due to cartel activity and fights right now that is occurring, a war in Culiacan between the Cartel of Chapitos and the Cartel de los Mallitos. But this right here, this statistic that you see right here, it is actually a reality. It says that pistols transited through the United States before arriving in Mexico in 2016. It was 7,161. 12,497 pistols went through the United States before arriving into Mexico in 2022. The type of firearms that have been used through trafficking through the United States and Mexico 2016 to 2022, pistols have been found 69,234, rifles 39,930, revolvers 16,864, and shotguns 7,423, and others 3,176. Other conservative media has said in Mexico that the amount of weapons that are being trafficked from the United States into Mexico annually, they're saying that is more than 200,000 illegal and illicit weapons, heavy artillery weapons being trafficked into from the United States to Mexico. Other conservative media, they're saying that the whole circulation of illicit and illegal weapons that they have come from the United States into the cartels, they're talking about 17 million. That's a huge number. It is a vast amount of number. Now, why Tucker Carlson, bringing it back to Tucker Carlson, why he is not talking about the massive distribution of heavy artillery guns coming from the United States into Mexico? And why is he so emphatic talking about, what is happening in Ukraine and giving out information that says that Ukrainian government officials or the Ukrainian government, it is selling the guns or selling the artillery into the Mexican cartel? This is a really conflictional thing because it tells you that there's a kind of a personal vendetta with, Tucker Carlson and Zelensky. Zelensky asking for trillions of dollars. And now he was asked where, the money it is, humanitarian help to Ukraine. And he responded, half of it, I don't even know where it's at. That is so aggravating. And it is so insulting for the American people. But it is kind of looks like it's a personal vendetta. I don't know where he gets his factual information. I'm waiting, and I'm really curious to see that, because now the Mexican government, it is going to react. These are actual really serious declarations and statements saying that the Ukrainian military or Ukrainian government it is selling heavy artillery machinery or guns, into the cartels in Mexico. It's clearly something that is extremely serious. Why? Because if you're listening to these statements, now the Mexican government needs to investigate and analyze if this is truly a possibility, if this is truly something that is happening. Now, in the past, we have seen that Mexican cartels have hired people and terrorists from the Middle East to teach and to basically make the cartel members understand how to create, semi-automatic explosives, and also, Molotov bombs, car explosives, and these kind of situations which they are, teaching them. And they have brought terrorists from the Taliban into the cartels to teach them also how to make underneath tunnels and how to basically know how to attack in case of a confrontation with the enemy. It has been discovered that they have done that. Now, what makes you think that this is not a possibility? Of course, it is a possibility. We know that the Ukrainian government has been, completely silent in terms to declaring where all the trillions of dollars have been deviated and where has all this, money has gone. Talking about specifically the trillions of dollars that they were sent into Ukraine. They have been silent and they have not, uncovered and unveiled if this is a possibility. Where is it at? Now, a lot of the people have been, this recently, Dodge has been, Doge, or if you want to say Doge, has been completely open about saying of the money of your diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI, where the money has been gone. This is so unbelievable. The things that are being unveiled under the Trump administration with the billions and the trillions of dollars. But one of the things that is extremely important is for people to understand where the heavy artillery guns are coming from. And this is an aggravated problem. It's a really aggravated problem because you know that there's a lot of trafficking of fentanyl going from Mexico into the United States. Now, I have been reporting on this. During the week, I have been going to the border. I've been checking the border and seeing how the National Guardsmen are operating at the division of the border between Mexico, Tijuana, and also San Isidro, that is a international port of entry. I have been there watching the National Guardsmen, how they've been doing their job. It is a copy paste of what also, it's a copy paste of what has been the National Guard, ultimately the National Guard of what the United States Customs is doing. Now, if you see how the United States Customs operate in terms to randomly picking vehicles to check them and to see if they're carrying illicit drugs into the United States, or also some kind of illicit goods that they can cross into the United States. It is kind of like what the National Guard of Mexico is doing. They randomly pick vehicles. They put a mirror on the bottom. When they don't have a sniffing dog, they put a mirror on the bottom because the sniffing dog is it's in another lane or another port of entry doing exactly what it needs to be done. National Guardsmen of Mexico are using also sniffing dogs. In the videos, some videos I record the sniffing dogs. Some videos the sniffing dog was not there. So they have sniffing dogs. They have these Pastor Malonai, German shepherds, right? They're trained ultimately also to do their job and to do the particular, situations of detecting if there's illegal substances going into the United States. So this is another deterrent that, now the Trump administration, just this dialogue with the Mexican president to create this deterrent for these drugs to not arrive fully and traffic fully into the United States of America, which this deterrent, it is placed on the vehicle ports of entry where the most trafficking of drugs occurs into the United States of America. Tons and tons of drugs from fentanyl they were crossed before. Now you have this deterrent. Let's see the first trimester of the statistics of the Trump administration, if it has decreased or not. Now, there is a comment right here of IG. It says, Chuck Holton just explained this. I'm going with his explanation. Tucker has been compromised with propaganda. Chuck, I send a big hug to my mentor, Chuck Holton. Chuck has a vast, knowledge of Ukraine. He has been there for months, studying the war for months, and he knows more than anything that the possibilities of Ukrainian government trafficking guns to the cartel. I don't see that being a big. I don't see that as being as accurate, and I do not know. I do not know if where his factual information of Tucker Carlson, where is he getting it? Is he getting it from the Russian government? Because if that is coming from the Russian government, when has Russia been an ally of the United States of America? I do not understand. But knowing this fact that this is a bilateral topic of Mexico and the United States, of the enormous trafficking of illicit artillery into Mexico, this is something that is extremely serious. Because if you're saying that the Ukrainian government is the one that is supplying now the cartels, wow, that is something that is extremely serious, because you're funneling somebody on the Biden administration was funneling the money into the enemies by within. So it's basically the Biden administration. It comes back to the Biden administration because they're the ones and the ones that they pass these bills on the Senate and Congress to basically funnel all this money into Ukraine. Ukraine buys the guns, or the guns that are being sent to Ukraine, sold to the cartels. It's just amazing. If this is actually accurate, if Tucker Carlson is right, this will be the most explosive news possibly in the world. But until now, it is a speculation. There's no affirmative information, and he talks about the intelligence agencies knowing that this is actually happening. And the CIA knows about this, and the CIA is making a lot of money. I would like to get the information that actually shows that this is credible, and actually shows that this is actually a reality. No disrespect to immediately to Tucker Carlson, he's an incredible journalist, but knowing this, that we know where the majority of the guns are coming from, and the majority of the guns are coming from the country of the United States into Mexico, being trafficked by cartel into Mexico to basically arm them and to create a more to fuel the war in the country, in the parts of Culiacan, the parts of Guerrero, not only the parts of Culiacan, Guerrero, but also in the parts of Michoacan. This is a disaster. This will be the most incredible discovery in terms to how the wars are now, and everybody knows, are the wars are an incredible business. So this is how it is affecting. Now, let me just go and talk about this. And we know Obama did it. Yes, with his Operation Fast and the Furious, that it was a complete disaster. His Operation Fast and the Furious was a complete disaster. Now, let us go to what is actually happening. Can you do a brief in Spanish? I will do a live in Spanish tomorrow for people that want to listen to Spanish. If I do a brief in Spanish, it will completely drag away the whole topic in English. So, this is how the threat of a tariff. It was implemented by Donald Trump. 25% threat of a tariff. It's a huge amount, incredible huge amount of a threat of a tariff into Mexico. And a lot of the people say how it is affecting and how it will affect Mexico. I knew that this was going to happen. It was going to affect the commercial line, that is the truck driver line, the truck driver lane, and the truck driver line, which inevitably it shows you that long lines are going to happen. It was going to affect the pockets of the big manufacturing companies. And not only that, the enterprises and the businessmen, they were going to get affected. But the long lines to cross into the United States were going to be one of the things that was going to be extremely important. And now, what has been happening with this threat of a tariff? And does it have right now some kind of an effect on, on the truck drivers and the truck driving companies? This is how it's been looking, and let me explain. For 5 days straight, the waiting line to cross to the United States for every tractor with a trailer has been for more than 8 hours to export into the United States of America. Also, in conditions to known numbers, before the threat of a tariff, they were talking about that 4,400 units that were crossing, but now it has decreased into 1,500 units. This is affecting the production in the manufacturing companies, in maquiladoras, in Tijuana, and also huge numbers of lower economical increase to the manufacturing companies. This is a huge low blow into the maquiladora. Do you see right here? It's a lot of maquiladoras, a lot of manufacturing companies that these are located just in the commercial line that they export into the United States of America. This is a huge blow into these manufacturing companies, which is going to put a lot of pressure into the Mexican president for her to understand that she needs to immediately decrease the level of trafficking in this trimester, show to Donald Trump that, yes, we are decreasing it. Please, remove the threat of a tariff, remove it, and we will continue to work in a bilateral relation, or just, abilitate to be more agile to cross and to be more fast. Now, there has been informative reports that the United States Customs of the United States of America, they are about to implement artificial intelligence into the customs agents, and also the customs ports of entry, of the vehicle ports of entry, and the commercial lines for truck drivers, which is going to be extremely more fast for truck drivers to cross into the United States of America with international, trade. And also, it is not only that, but also it's going to, increase the level of business, of exportation and importation from Mexico to the United States, and from the United States to Mexico, which is more profitable for the Mexican businessman, or for the international businessman, or for the international manufacturing companies. Right now, it is giving them a low blow because the inspections and the meticulous inspections are really meticulous by the United States Customs, because they're trying to crack down and lower down the level of fentanyl into the United States of America. Also, in addition, there's an inspection point by the National Guard in the commercial line in the Mexican Customs, just steps away from the United States Customs, which is showing right here why the waiting line has been from 8 hours for one tractor trailer, when you're talking about that 4,400 units were crossing. Now it has decreased to 1,500 units. It is a huge blow to the international, manufacturing companies, and it is going to affect them economically. The manufacturing companies in the international companies that they are located and they're crossing their product, into the United States of America. This is actually, it is a low blow, and it is going to hit them in the pockets. Now, why now it is going to hit them in the pockets? Now we're going to understand that the international companies are going to have to push to the Mexican government to tell them, hey, you know what? You need to decrease this. You need to decrease the level of fentanyl. It is hitting them in the pockets. This is why I said multiple times before, the threat of a tariff needs to happen whether they like it or not. And I have said this multiple times. Why? Because it is a trickle effect, and it's a domino effect. At first, it affects them into the international companies. And also, it affects them, and, particularly in the pockets, which it is going to push the ones that they maintain and sustain the economy of the middle class and the lower class families, to push the government to tell them, hey, you know what? It is affecting us. And if you don't fix this, we're going to go broke. We're going to go bankrupt. And you're not going to have no jobs. And you're going to have the middle class guy and the lower middle class guy in Mexico pissed off because they cannot sustain their economy. They cannot sustain the payment of their house. They cannot sustain a family. They cannot even afford a life. You don't want that. So you need to, go back to the puzzle and fix this economy, and you need to do something about it. This is actually a great strategy from the president of the United States to push the Mexican government to do something about the security, ultimately hitting the businessman, and the businessman is going to say, hey, president, I'm not making any money. I'm not giving you jobs. I'm not sustaining your economy. Actually, I'm losing money, and now I'm investing from the things that I'm not supposed to invest. You need to fix this, and you need to actually do this, and you need to fix the security of the problem. One of the things that has been an incredible, and a lot of people do not understand. They're talking about the genocide, and they say this genocide that is occurring in Palestine. They don't talk about the genocide that is actually occurring in the United States of America. And the actual genocide that is occurring in the United States of America is the deaths of fentanyl that is actually affecting the American people. 107,000 deaths due to fentanyl. They happen every year. 107,000 Americans die every year of fentanyl. It's a huge problem, and it is causing, the complete disaster, and it is destroying the youth. It is destroying also American lives. You see the level of addiction increasing, and also one of the things that the Mexican president had a dialogue with the American president, said there's no programs of rehabilitation. There's no programs for you to just basically educate the American people, to tell them, hey, you know what? This is a problem inside of your country. It is a bilateral problem, and it's a problem that it needs to be decreased, and it is a problem that it needs to also decrease on your end. And it's a bilateral problem because you have an enormous inflation of demand, but the inflation it is making of demand, it is making richer also the cartels. It is exactly what Biden did, that he created this enormous, disastrous immigration problem, from illegal immigration due to cartel activity happening to non-ports of entry. And this made the cartel richer. Twice they grew on infrastructure, twice they grew on economy, technology, and they grew on, basically on territory. They grew twice as big. This is unbelievable what they did. The Biden administration made the cartel richer. Now, this is what it's actually, causing right now to the businessman, into the manufacturing companies. This is not only happening into the parts of Tijuana, it's also happening in the parts of Matamoros, Nuevo Laredo, with Laredo, Texas, one of the biggest, commercial line ports of entry in the country of Mexico. It is, it is happening. It is hitting them in the pockets, because the meticulous inspections are not only happening in the backyard of the United States Customs, it's also happening in the backyard of the Mexican Customs. And it is decreasing the level of crossings of truck drivers into the United States of America, which is affecting the economy on both sides. The economy of the United States is extremely much richer than Mexico. We understand that. The GDP, it is, don't even compare it. But it is actually something that we can have to say the United States can sustain the economy of losing a little bit of inflation with this manufacturing companies, and losing a little bit. They can sustain that. Mexico cannot. So they need to react immediately, and they need to put specific solutions, really specific and immediate solutions for this. This is actually getting the truck drivers upset. I'm going to put a report in a video later on the platform on X for people to understand, and put captions on a couple of interviews that we did with truck drivers, that actually these truck drivers explain that they feel frustrated because they cannot, they're not originating money as they supposed to. They don't, some of them, they have, a stable salary, and also they make out of, every number of production of crossing every tractor trailer. Let's per se a hypothetical example. A company pays $300 as a base salary, but when you cross over 10, tractor trailers, then the next one, if they will pay you at $40, or they will pay you at $30 per load if it is loaded or if it is empty. They have, different types of payments. With this, they're not even going to make one. So their base salary is going to be only their base salary, and it is affecting them directly in the pockets. And this is, truck drivers are getting affected. The economy is getting affected. This is the effect of the threat of a tariff. The threat of a tariff, it is not supposed to affect the economy. It is supposed to affect the businessman. That is basically the economy of the businessman, but it's not, directly to that. It's directly to fix a problem. And the problem that is, the problem that the Donald Trump wants Mexico to fix, that is actually what we wanted to be fixed from years and years. It is actually the cartel, the organized crime. To fix that aggravated problem, to immediately fix that aggravated problem, and to fix it now, because that has been a problem for years and years and years of the Mexican people. And it's actually, if this gets fixed, Mexicans will be having a safer life, because right now Mexico, it is one of the most dangerous places to live. Tijuana is one of the most dangerous cities in the world to live. It is not. I think that it was on the number one right now of the most dangerous cities to live due to assassinations, to homicides, to cartel activity, and also towards journalists due to threats and all types of situations towards journalists. Is one of the most dangerous cities in the world for that. And now you have this, so it is financially affecting companies, businessmen, and international investors across the borders that connect to the United States of America. So a lot of people are asking if these National Guardsmen, there's questions right here. Let me just go ahead and answer the questions. There was a question right here. Let me go. They're mostly good and wholesome people. They're okay. There was a question right here. I forgot. Where was the question? Hold on. Let me scroll right here. Okay, here it is. This is the question. It says, let me remove this video because it's not letting me see the question. Okay, here it goes. It says, Oscar, how many of the 10,000 Mexican military on the border aren't corrupt and working with the cartels? Well, that is a question that it's unreasonable if I tell you, oh, this amount. We have seen that corrupt authorities. We have seen it in our country of Mexico, but there's always a possibility of a change. So we don't know that. It's exactly if I say under the Biden administration, how many congressmen and how many senators from your country are corrupt. Of if I say if any border patrol is corrupt, and you're going to say no, they're not. They just found one in El Paso. So it's we don't know. The only thing is that something is happening, and something needed to happen, and we are everybody's gracious that something something happened, and something immediately happened, and now something is happening, and something is being done to be fixed. But it's just it's a start. It's a start for something to happen. Now, you're seeing that it is affecting the economy. You believe me, these international investors and owners of big manufacturing companies, they don't want to lose money. They want to still be, on this growth of exporting and importing into the United States of America, because they know business is business. So they don't want to lose it. So believe me, it is going to create, a trickle and domino effect into the authorities to make them understand that, hey, there's no time for corruption anymore, man. We need to fix this problem. So hopefully it will go to that particular place, and basically try to fix it. Now, there's a question right here. Is President Claudia Sheinbaum is aware of what is happening with all these truckers, and it's similar to what happened to Canada incident truckers? Is President Claudia Sheinbaum is aware of what is happening with all these truckers, and it's similar? I haven't seen that they have asked it, and they have asked about this topic in the morning, conferences with Claudia Sheinbaum. I will suggest I will see the one tomorrow, if it is actually one of the things that it's that is particularly happening, and if it is somebody's going to ask a question about what is your thoughts on the slow lines on the commercial line that is affecting the international investors. Let's see what is going to be her answer. And it's similar to what happened in Canada. No, it's not a no, it's not similar. Well, it has some similarities, but it's the tyrannical government of Trudeau who affected the truckers. Over here, it is not the tyrannical government of Trudeau. It is the threat of a tariff that is implemented by the actual administration of the United States that is trying to make Mexico correct the atrocities that are happening to their people, that is the cartels, and also these atrocities are having a trickle effect into the United States of America. That is what we believe that is. Everyone around here is paying attention to everything that's going on locally. Let's see another question. I know we kind of stare down at Mexico for the corruption between the government and the cartel, but with the USID revelations, we don't have much room to talk about. Thank you for bringing that up. I believe that it's not a time to point the finger; it's time to fix the problem. And I believe strongly that both governments, we have a socialist president, it's a woman, it's a socialist president, and it's a socialist president that we don't, a lot of people do not trust. And I cannot say that I don't trust, and I can say that I trust. She hasn't. She's been only less than a year, I think, in government, and I was covering the elections when she became president. We don't have an actual, estimated understanding that to say, oh, we can criticize her government profoundly. In terms of immigration, I have told you I'm telling you, she failed in the first months. There were more than 15 caravans that they were created under her administration before Donald Trump became president, because everybody was trying to make it. Now you actually see how many caravans have been created since the threat of a tariff has been implemented. Not even one. And the decrease of people coming and migrating and leaving the south border in a caravan or in a big group, it hasn't been seen. Also, we have talked to contacts in the south border of Mexico and informed us that the level of people to leave under the assumption that they're going to arrive to the United States of America has decreased a lot. So in terms of migration, let me just inform you what's been happening. Almost 97% of the people have decreased on crossing the Darien Gap, it makes me extremely happy, because we have crossed that. As you see the banner in the back, that is going to be our documentary that is going to be released shortly, and also our book. It is going. I'm going to promote that before I leave. But the documentary is going to be released first, and then our book is going to be released secondary. So, knowing that factor, that we crossed that, my colleague Ben and myself, we crossed that 4 times as the only people that they have done that 4 times, getting ourselves almost into life and death situations. Getting sick of, got sick of malaria 2 to 3 times, and dengue, and also my colleague got sick also. Seeing the atrocities that were happening right there, and knowing that right now the stats that the Panamanian government has released and said that almost 97% of the decrease of flow has slowed down through the Darien Gap. For me, it makes me extremely happy. I will tell you one thing why. There's no people dying. There's no more people dying. That's one of the things that I'm first and foremost. There's no children suffering, which I have carried, multiple children in helping these children inside of the jungle. This is a picture that I have of, of the children right here, carrying the children. There's no thing that makes me more happier. There's no children now suffering the consequences of the Darien. The cartel has been hit in the pockets, devastating, for the cartel, the Cartel Clan del Golfo in Colombia. It's not making profitable, market like they were making millions and millions of dollars, as they were making millions of dollars out of this immigration. They're making millions of dollars. The NGOs also, they've been shut down. Why they have been shut down? This comes with the USAID and the DEI has been completely shut down. That's the thing that I have been screaming for years, to shut down these NGOs, to stop the federal grants, and to these NGOs, to basically audit these NGOs and investigate these NGOs for the enormous trafficking of children and, distribution of children to addresses. And this is one of the things that I have been completely saying it for years now. And it's a thing that is making me extremely happy, because these NGOs, they're not profiting out of human misery anymore. And this is a place that I walked 4 times. And to me, to understand that 97% has decreased, I imagine myself walking through that place, being alone. I think that it's much scarier to walk that place alone with nobody to be around it, than to see thousands of people walking through that particular pathway. And, the decomposed bodies, seeing decomposed bodies, seeing people, drowning, seeing people getting sick that could not even continue to walk, and more than likely they were going to die in the middle of the jungle. Seeing women not being raped and abused by the cartel as they were being abused and raped by the cartel in the middle of the jungle. Knowing that it is ending, and knowing that ended, I am, more than applauding the Trump administration for that, because it took a man like him to take that decision that enough is enough. And that was going to be a domino effect into South America. And it is now a domino effect into South America. For you to say that 97% of the migration through Panama has slowed down, and to also, there was a video that which I am doing a live tomorrow about that for people if they want to watch it. It's for people that they want to watch tomorrow. The migration now is on an inverse. It's an inverse now. A lot of people are returning back. There was a group of migrants that it was documented on the port of Puerto Canoas, that a place that we have been in Costa Rica. This port of Puerto Canoas was reporting that migrants were returning back, and a lot of them, they were going to return back through the jungle. That's a horrible way to do it. And that's the way that we have been doing it on the inverse route. We did it 3 times inverse. No, 4 times. No, 3 times. 3 times on inverse route, and 1 coming from walking with them. That's horrible. To do an inverse route, that's the most treacherous, most disastrous, and most painful way to walk the Darien. And for me to understand 97% has decreased. Now, the level of deportations is a lot of Mexicans that they have been continuously been deported to Mexico. It's a lot of Mexicans that they're continuous to be deported, return back, deported. It's a huge amount of, of people that they're being deported. Now, to basically understand what has been happening with the amount of it has decreased. It has enormously decreased on Central and South America, enormously. And enormously has decreased with ultimately not only with Central and South America, but it has decreased massively in the caravans in the south border of Mexico. It's huge effect, humongous effect, completely different administration, completely different. Now, there's another flow that is being documented on the part of Brazil and Venezuela to Brazil, Pacaraima, Brazil. Thousands of people are migrating over there. Thousands of people are leaving Venezuela to go to Brazil. Brazil is giving them permits. Brazil is giving them also, permissions to work permits, and is giving them the ability to do a lot of, and to have a lot of, opportunities to work. That's another, a particular route that they're using to go to Pacaraima, Brazil. But there's a current, a lot of current situations in terms of the flow. Let's see. Right here, a question, Oscar. How do you contain yourself when encountering kids you knew were being trafficked on the trail? A lot of them, they were, a lot of them, they were not being trafficked. A lot of them, they were with their parents. A lot of them, they were with adults that they did not see as they were their parents. But you have to understand, this has been well documented. The majority of the children that have been trafficked to the United States of America are from Guatemala and from Mexico. They're not a lot that they're from Venezuela, Ecuador, and all this kind of stuff. A lot of them, they're from Guatemala and Mexico. Now, I've seen a lot of unaccompanied minors in the Darien Gap. Yes, I've seen them. And I saw all types of children, children almost drowning from China, from Africa, from Haiti. And sadly, this is one of the things that is disastrous for me. Many men, there was a night that it was almost 10 o'clock at night, 10, 11 o'clock at night. There's no lights. We're in the middle of the jungle, sleeping in a hammock. And you can actually hear the children screaming, "Mom, I want to go home. I want to go home." Children sick, children crying. That's the most horrible thing that I have, in my mind that I can remember. Why? Because it is really difficult that it's going to go away. And one of the things that is more difficult, it is that, the most horrible thing about this is that, those children, a lot of them make it, a lot of them, they did not. And the ones that, right now that it's empty and nobody's walking through there is one of the things that is making me happier, because I understand that there's no children that they're suffering those kind of circumstances, because we've seen them. And a lot of them, I carry them, my third journey and fourth journey, I started doing that because out of the necessity of helping, not out of the necessity of trying to, of just trying to facilitate. No, out of necessity of, it is that or seeing these children die. And it's just, it's sad to see. Let's see. It says Tanis Teflon Tan Hendrickson. Oscar, any idea for the last 4 years people didn't stop all of this? Citizens, we kind of allowed it by not making a stand, didn't we? We have Trump for 4 years, but if we don't have plan in case, no, it was the Biden administration. A lot of the people in this is why Trump won by a landslide. The American people were not liking this at all. And it was the Biden administration with the group of globalists, United Nations, Alex Soros, Antonio Gutierrez, and ultimately not only that, the progressive Congress people, that there a lot of the Democrats Congress, they're the enemies by within. All these people, they were disastrous. And all these people were basically, aiding and abetting this to continue. And the NGOs, asking the NGOs, that's, a lot of American people were sick and tired of it. But this is why the next election, Trump won by a landslide. And, and it's because of the whole disaster that he caused. A lot of Americans, they were like, it's a disaster. But you're asking a question again. You said, but why didn't we rise up against the tyrannical government? You did. That's why you won the next election. And there was a lot of protests. There was a lot of persecution against, Americans. And there was a lot of persecution against, people that they were standing against this. A lot of persecutions, towards us, journalists trying to get us killed, stale. People trying to get us killed in our country of Mexico, in Tijuana, trying to, steal people, trying to, get our lives threatened and lives taken. It's a reality that, a lot of people were standing against this, and, we risk our lives through this, man. It was just horrible to document, horrible to see, horrible to basically see this. It was just horrible to see, but it's the risk that we had to take. It was our lives that we had to put through this torture, so people will see the reality. Let me just go over here. Oscar, why do you think that ICE hasn't encountered more of lost children? I don't know. It is the first month of the mass deportations. For be the first month, it is going pretty slow. And I'm not encouraging to go fast, slow. I'm just saying what I have been, seeing in terms of numbers, and in terms to not only numbers, but in terms to comparison to what Obama did. It's completely different. Obama was the worst president ever, and the head deporter in chief. But in terms to the people that they're actually deporting immensely and fastly are Mexicans. Now, in terms to the flights of Venezuelans, a lot of these people already have court dates, already have lawyers that they're intending to defend them to stay, because the TPS, the temporary protection status, this is one they revoked the temporary protection status that it was put on 2022. So they will be easily, picked and to be deported and returned back. So, you have a lot of people that they are hiring lawyers to defend their case. It is going to be more, difficult terrain for the Trump administration to pick these individuals and to deport them, because they already had a court hearing, they already had their TPS, and they already have, their level of persecution that they can actually be uh, now change the persecution into say, oh, I don't want to go back. Now the actual administration it's like the ACLU, what they're trying to say, they're actually persecuting these people. You have a lot of diverse of options that these people can use to prevent them from being to deport them. You actually have a lot of strategies that they can use to prevent them from being deported. Now, is this going to be a difference of strategy? Because we have seen that the numbers are, their numbers are not as astronomical as as they are suggesting. And actually, Tom Homan is being criticized, hardly criticized, and saying that the deportations are not what he was expected. You cannot ask in the first month. Come on, it's a lot of demands in the first month. Actually, what they have done in the first month is historical. They have decreased the level of trafficking like no other administration of illegal aliens into the United States. And also, they have saved so many lives from being trafficked in the middle of the jungle in the Darien Gap, and also in Central and South America, decrease the level of caravans due to the threat of a tariff, and also the level of relations moving fast forward after the first trimester. It is going to be extremely important to see the results in the first trimester in terms of numbers and statistics of what is going to happen. So, this is going to be extremely important to see. And to see after the first trimester. Let me see right here. There's a comment. Oscar, I saw that there was another caravan en route to Mexican-U.S. border. Isn't the Mexican army? No, there was not. No, this was a long time ago. There hasn't been a caravan leaving the side of the border. There was a video that went viral, and it was a few amount of people leaving Costa Rica going back to Panama. This is incredible because now people you're going to see that they're the so-called and famous statement of self-deportation. You're going to see a lot of that, going back, a lot of migrants returning back to their homes. You're actually going to see that a lot. And we are seeing it in the parts of Costa Rica going back to Panama. And in Panama, there's, if you don't have a passport, that's one of the reasons that it's extremely important for you to understand. If you don't have a passport, you're not going to be able to travel. And a lot of these people from Venezuela, they do not have a passport. They lost it in the Darien, or they could not afford a passport because the passport is extremely expensive. It costs like $400 to $600. These people do not have $400 to $600. A lot of these people. The incredible thing is that they have money to pay the cartel and the coyote to traffic them, but they don't have money to pay the passport. So it's kind of like it's really I don't understand the priority factor, right? But they can go and have their passport, and they can ask family members to help them to be on to have their passport. It's the number one entity that it has a really difficult is the number one entity that has a really difficult situation in terms of obtaining their passport. Venezuelans, they're the ones that they have because of their tyrannical government that is extremely expensive. They make $3 to $8 a month, and it's really takes you in to make you understand that it's really difficult for these people to just to obtain a passport. It's you're a commentator, and I can't imagine how dangerous it is to go back. But again, it was their choice to walk here. Yes, I understand what you say. Yes, it was their choice, and I completely agree with that. You put yourself through this journey, and they tell you. We had multiple interviews when we went down there with migrants before they went inside a Darien, and we told them, that there's a possibility that you are going to die, right? And they said yes. To the women, we told them, that there's a possibility that you're going to get kidnapped and raped and possibly die, and they said yes. to the parents that they have their their children. That there's a possibility, and a huge possibility, that particularly these that the children is possibly going to not make it because of the level of dehydration and the level of demand of physical demand. It is going to be extremely high, and the climate inside of the jungle is extremely, it's radical. It changes from one moment to another. It's raining like, I never seen a rain like that in my life inside of the jungle. Never. And I never experienced so many multiple mudslides. In our first journey, we saw mudslides in the first day. If I'm counting short, 30, 35 mudslides, and I'm saying humongous mudslides. These are big mountains, huge monsters, man. And you can actually, it was really difficult to walk the first time because it was extremely difficult to not fall into these mudslides. That there is more than 2,200 feet in the air, so you're trying to walk as as precautious as possible to not die. That's one of the things that it's extremely, it was difficult the first time. uh, uh how are the ones still in Mexico getting back home walking? A lot of them, they have put their petitions to stay in Mexico and to work, asked the UNHCR to give them the permit of the humanitarian visa for them to stay. And a lot of them, they want to stay in Mexico. There's a few migrants that are still coming to work and stay in Mexico. A lot of them, they want to stay in Panama. But you have a vast majority of migrants that they are going to wait. And this is the other effect, that the Republicans need to plan what are they going to do for the 2028 election. Because if the Republicans do not win another term of 4 years, you are going to have a massive wave of people that they are waiting for this 4 years to end. You're going to have a massive wave, huge, massive wave of people that they're going to still be waiting right here. Massive wave waiting in Guatemala, massive wave waiting in the central parts of the country of Mexico, and huge and massive wave of immigrants waiting in the north borders that connect to the United States of America. Massive amounts of people, massive amount of migrants waiting on the north and on the south border for the 4 years to end. So Republicans need to plan what are they going to do with the next election, because immediately, the Democratic agenda has already been stipulated, and we already know what they are about. They're globalists. They're for the United Nations. They're communists. They want the complete destruction of borders. They don't want borders at all. So this is going to be a complete change of, understanding that if the next, the next administration and the next 2028 comes to be Democrat, oh, watch out. Whew, this is going to be immediately, blown out of proportion. Says you coup countries take over their agriculture, give them loan shark loans to stabilize, and now you cry. Although you so-called won elections. I live in Mexico. I don't live in the United States. So you're talking to the wrong person. God bless you all. How's everybody doing? Thank you so much for joining in. Oscar Blue for Real America's Voice News, live from Tijuana, Mexico podcast, talking about illegal artillery. Is it actually coming from Ukraine, or is it actually just a propaganda from Russia? We don't know. We don't know if it is actually propaganda or not. That was a video being exposed by and is going viral right now by Tucker Carlson. That is a huge topic. If you actually go back to the video of right here that is being done in YouTube, you can actually see which is the number one habilitator for illicit artillery coming into Mexico. That is the United States of America. Sadly, it is the United States of America. So that is was one of the agreements between now the Mexican president and Donald Trump. On the Mexican side, crack down the fentanyl, lower down and crack down, and create a deterrent to lower down the fentanyl trafficking into the United States, crack down the illicit and illegal migration into the United States, and on the American side, slow down the level of trafficking of guns into Mexico. Hello to everybody. It is 10:15 West Coast time, February 16 of the year 2025. God bless you all. Take care of yourselves. Thank you so much for joining in. If you'd like to contribute to my independent reporting and travel fund, on top you can see the link. It is called Buy Me a Coffee. So it is right there to donate and contribute to my independent reporting and travel fund. Stay safe, and like we always say, God's plan, it is our mission. Thank you so much. Stay safe.